Welcome to Life at Next podcast, Libby.
Thank you.
It's
Thanks
nice,
for having me.
nice to have you on.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
How's your day?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really
good.
good. Yeah.
Good. So you are a recruiter, right?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Always been in
Recruiter.
recruitment? Or?
No. No. Kind of. I think every recruiter will say they've kind of fell into recruitment. Everyone that I've spoken to, sort of in the recruitment team, and the same exactly happened to me. So, yeah, no.
Where did you start then? Were you at Next previous before then you became a recruiter for Next?
So I've been at Next for coming up to 8 years now in a few months. So it's flown. Time really flies. And I remember I used to kind of look at like those lifers at Next, as we call them, and I think I am turning into one now. So it's
8 years is a big stint.
It's funny being on the other side of it. So I actually started working in the home department. I needed an admin job. I just needed a job. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I wanted to kind of gain as much experience as possible to kind of help me decide what my career looked like. And I got an admin job in the home department. I actually was responsible for booking all the travel for the buyers and the designers.
Oh, nice.
So it was as glamorous as it probably sounds. So it wasn't quite going on the trips, but it really helped to give me a good insight into what an inspiration trip is and what a supply visit might be. And, because all of our product teams, they travel all over the world. So it really, me sort of coming with no knowledge really of the product industry at all. Even just, starting off booking a few trips to China and Barcelona or wherever, it really helped me to sort of learn a bit more, and that I was really intrigued by that. So, that was my first role. I've dabbled in a few since then, but I think it's really helped me to sort of understand the brand, and also I recruit for product in particular, so having worked in home and I also worked in children's wear, that's really helped me to understand the product life cycle, understand what a buyer is, a merchandiser, a designer, a garment tech, a fabric tech, etc. It all has really helped me understand what I'm telling people when I'm trying to recruit them into the business. So and that's some advice I kind of try to pass on to students that I talk to, because, you've got to kind of invest in your learning, and that really helps to shape your future career and what it is that you end up doing. And mine is recruitment.
Yeah.
That's where it's kind of led me. And, I'm really glad that I've had all of those opportunities in the business, because I don't think I'd have half the knowledge that I do in my role now if I hadn't done those roles before. So
no, I was just thinking now when you were saying it, that when you said, "Oh, I'm a product recruiter as well," and we'll get into that even more, but that insight of working amongst the teams must be, it's invaluable, really. If you think about it, like what they're thinking, and
exactly. And do you know what? Any recruiter will tell you, it really is, you are selling a role to something. Yeah. You've got to be able to sell it. I can't sell something I don't really know about, and I can't feel passionate about something if I don't really understand it myself, because someone, for me in particular, someone who's looking for a role fresh out of university, that they need to they put their trust in you for what the guidance that you're giving to them. So you've got to really understand and get right under the skin of what it is that you're trying to sell to them as well.
So is your focus purely on the early careers demographic then?
It is. So all early careers, as I mentioned, it's in the within the product function.
Product, because there's other roles, isn't there?
So obviously Next is huge. In terms of early careers, we do have a few different umbrellas, if you like, that opportunities lie within. I specifically look after product. So we do have an established trainee scheme with that, which really is like my main focus. But then we do also have obviously other opportunities that come around, whether it's placements, work experience. We might also have just ad hoc opportunities that come up as well. So it's great. I love it. Really, yeah. I think even just talking, I've never really thought about this before, but I think even talking about my personal journey just then has actually really contributed to how much I love it, because I remember being in that position of not really knowing what I want to do. And, you know, you will, if you really sort of dabble your feet in a few things and just try and find out as much as you can about anything that sort of sparks your interest, it's going to benefit you in the long run, 100%. I feel it has for me, and I know other people that's happened to as well, and, you know, they're in really successful careers, and more importantly, they're in careers that they enjoy, they're happy at work, because, you know, you spend 80% of your time at work, you've got to enjoy it. So, do you enjoy it?
I love it. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I do. You're right. I do. We spend a lot of time here. So, you know, and I think the good thing about Next is, I've said this a couple of times, there's loads of ways you can fulfill that desire and passion by seeking out those opportunities. It's not like right, you stay in your lane or you do this. It's all encouraged, and everyone will listen. It's all encouraged,
and it's all out there for you. You just have to want to find it, and sort of it is there, you know. And that's one thing that I love about working for Next, is that they really do invest in your learning and your development. And, you know, if you want to learn, they have the tools there and the support that can really help you do that. So that's also something that, you know, I really want to relay to anyone that's kind of thinking about starting their career and they don't know where to start. And, you know, you've got to make sure that you're working for an employer that is, you know, is going to look after you. And, you know, because as I said, it all comes back down to being happy at work. And, you know, it's really, really important.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So what if you are someone that is at uni or thinking about, you know, it's like, what's my next step? This is going to be the perfect episode to listen to, isn't it? Yeah.
I hope so.
Well, I hope so as well. I've set it up now, so let's hope so. But what kind of, like, just talk me through a few tips of kind of what people can expect, because I guess, you know, I think, like you say, it's not until you really sit down in a scenario like this and look back, you forget how daunting or how different uni and work life is.
Definitely. And it is so daunting. And, you know, we do understand that. We really, really do. And I think that really shows in the support that we provide. You know, just sort of to name a few things, we have an in-house learning and development team that's kind of made up of previous buyers, merchandisers that have actually worked at Next, and, you know,
impressive.
They're passing on their own first-hand experience and knowledge. So, you know, that's sort of been implemented to help develop our trainees, and, you know, they're the future of Next. So we've got to invest our time into them, because, you know, they are the future of the brand, and they're the future of where really we're going to go, you know, in terms of as an employer and as a brand overall and as a business, because I think that's how I always define what is a trainee. It is the future.
That's a good way of putting it. That is a good way of putting it.
Mic drop. But no, it is, they are the future. That's just how I look at it. And, you know, a few of my tips would be that, you know, as I mentioned, you've really got to be open to learning new things, you know, discover your niche, try a few different things. If there's one thing that's kind of you're interested in finding out a little bit more, then, you know, find out more about it, do your research, get some work experience, that kind of thing. It's, you know, 9 times out of 10, there will be somewhere that will provide some work experience for you. So take it. It might be unpaid, but on the grand scheme of things, you know, it's really going to be worth it in the long run. So that would definitely be a tip that I'd have. Another tip I'd have would just be to network.
Oh, really?
Really network. You know, you want to build up a really sort of strong group of like-minded people.
And when you say network, do you mean like network with people like you, or people in the industry, or companies, or what kind, or a mix?
To be honest, I think a mix, but I think to start off with, because you don't obviously want to go in full pelt and just like, then it's kind of like, it's all gets a bit too much. So I'd probably say if you really sort of know the kind of path you want to go down, try and find people in that area, absorb their knowledge. I always encourage people, if they're interviewing, ask questions to the person that's interviewing you. 9 times out of 10, they've been in the same position that you're in. And also it will make you stand out a mile if that you're also asking them questions. Oh, really? Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's one thing that we can't teach you, like I said, we have a learning and development team, we have a training academy, all that kind of thing, but we can't teach you to be passionate about something. And little things like that, asking questions in your interview, that really gets that across. So that curious mindset then, just being like... No question is a silly question, and it really does sort of, make something click in whoever it is that's interviewing you's mind, that you want to find out more. You're really sort of hungry to learn, and you want to take that next step. Just little things like that. They really, really do make a difference. I think that's key as well, because I don't think that stops either at interview. Like, definitely not. Whether you're in a project meeting or a team meeting, or, whatever you're doing, any sort of scenario next, it's always encouraged to ask those questions. And don't be afraid to either. You're not going to get shot down. Yeah. No, you won't. And that's another thing that we always kind of say when we're trying to talk about our different trainee opportunities that we have at Next, is that we don't want people to come in who just it is an entry level role, but that doesn't mean whatsoever that you're coming in and sitting in a meeting and sitting a note taking at the back. It's absolutely not that at all. The people behind Next are really what makes the brand, and that is from all different levels. We've seen trainees come into the business and make a huge difference to our range, or something new that we're implementing into even at head office, not even sort of within product. We have employee-led networks, that kind of thing. We have loads of different communities that a lot of the time can be led by trainees, or trainees are definitely heavily involved in it, and that's really, really encouraged here. So it's such an inclusive community, I think, and I'm sure with loads of other people that you spoke to on these podcasts, they would, say the same. It's such an inclusive company. It's so inclusive. It is so inclusive. You've got all the network, you've got all the employee-led communities which you can be part of, but then you've got things like sports and social, which is a community about just being sporty and doing social things. You've got the Your Voice reps and the networks that are kind of there to voice the opinion of departments, so it's all coming through in a nice, succinct way. Yeah, definitely. And then you've got all the other things, you've got other communities that are maybe not as official, like we've set stuff up where it's like if you're into gaming and you want to find out about that. I was just going to mention that. I'm actually now in a parenting group. Oh, wicked. And I didn't know about that before, but it's just, I think sometimes, like I say, when you find them, things are out there, and that's just an example. But I know that I saw there was one about film lovers, and it's just the gardening, a great way is to really gardening. Popular. It's really popular. Apparently. Anyone that's green thinking. Yeah. There's so many, and that's kind of the beauty of it, that there's no kind of limit on. No. So whatever you kind of are into, and 9 times out of 10, there's someone else across the business that is also into that. So it's just a great culture to be a part of, and it's forever growing. So it's always exciting to see where it goes, and I'm really passionate about the trainees being a part of that, and that's always what I want to relay to them. I can't sort of sell a dream if I don't believe it as well. So I am talking going off my own experience as well, working at Next. It is a great company to work for, and forever growing, as I said. Yeah.
And you mentioned there a couple of times, you mentioned about the in-house L&D team and growth and stuff. How important is growth?
Definitely important. I mean, and I know that sort of that next generation that's starting to come through with their careers as well, you know, growth and success, of course. I mean, it's always been an important thing to everybody, but, you know, that's really, we do recognise that obviously you kind of, yes, we've got an amazing trainee scheme, but you also want to see the bigger picture and what that kind of can lead to and what that looks like in 15 years' time, you know, and we've kind of got live case studies of that. You know, 75%, I think it is of our managers started as trainees. So,
oh really?
Yeah, I mean, it might be more than that now.
In product or
in product.
So so these are buying managers, merchandising managers, design managers, all of that. 75% of them.
So I think all of our merchandise managers now started as trainees, which is you know, that says a lot in itself, really, doesn't it? That the opportunities are there.
Yeah.
And it kind of comes back to what I was saying about the next lifers, you know, it is a kind of like a joke, you know, we laugh and joke about it, but there's a reason that they stay.
Yeah.
And, you know, it kind of comes back to that growth, that the opportunities are always there. And, you know, if you want to do well, we want you to do well. So.
And I guess the learning doesn't stop. Once you're in either.
No.
So once you've applied, I guess, would you say just keep on having that learning mindset? Yeah.
Definitely. Keep on having that learning mindset, because we do say that obviously it is a trainee scheme where we've got the workshops and anything like that that's provided to you, but it also is very much on the job training. So, and, you know, my personal preference, I think that would be an easier way for me to learn how to do something. That's not the same for everyone, which is why it's quite a nice mix of that you're then also attending regular workshops, or, you know, there's so much support there for you. But I think it's really great that although it's a training program, you're coming straight in, you're part of a product team, you know, it could be women's blouses, for example, and you're already making a difference to that range and, you know, how that product sells online, for example. So really from day one, the learning doesn't stop, but neither does the opportunity. So
that's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah, I think it's just, you know, learning is we can never learn too much about anything.
Not.
That's,
Definitely
you know,
not.
At work or outside of work, I don't think. So, you know, you're going to be growing every day in your role. So, and I think a lot of people across the business are examples of that. To be honest.
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
Not just in product.
No. It's
all
across the whole business. It's across the whole business. And what other things, when people are actually applying, do you and the other recruiters look for, or what can people do? Like you already mentioned there, how, you know, when you're in the interview process, ask the questions. What else can people do to kind of stand out, or, you know, make the process a lot easier and smoother? So
I definitely think if we go back a step from the interview and sort of when you're initially applying, one of my big tips would be definitely tailor your CV to the role that you're applying for.
So don't just have a
it's great to have a blanket one. That's kind of, you know, and you might just want that for your own reference, because sometimes you're like, wow, I forgot I did that. And mine's got like a waitressing job from like 10 years ago. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. But then, you know, it's really important that we can also see then that you're identifying the relevant skills that you've got for that role. So I always kind of encourage people to sort of look at the job description and then look at the CV and sort of see where you can marry up. Nice. Where your skills might, you know, really, really be relevant for that kind of role.
That's a good tip. It's a good tip.
A key example that just kind of always sticks in my mind is that, you know, we know at Next we're very fast-paced. It's always a fast-paced environment. And, you know, you might have worked as a waitress in a bar or something, and you might not think it's relevant, but that's normally a very fast-paced environment. So even just showing that you've kind of, it might not always be the obvious skills that you've got. So sometimes look at those softer skills as well, because
so it's like looking at what you've done and going, can I apply that to any of their like requirements?
Definitely, because we always put on our job descriptions as well. You know, obviously we add what we want to see from our ideal candidates, but we also give a really detailed view about the role, about the team. So, you know, it might not even be in the part that says this is what we want from you. It might just be that, you know, this is a fast-paced environment, or this is, you know, we're quite a reactive department. You know, we are in the retail industry, so things change every day, and it does really help an application stand out. I think if you've tailored your CV to the role, that also shows that you've sort of put in a great deal of effort already. And another thing that I say is just remember that your CV is the first time that we meet you. That's the first time we're meeting you.
Interesting way of putting that.
Yeah. Because it is. That's the first. What do you want to get across? You know, it's obviously we need all the important information on there because you're applying for a role, but show your personality. You know, don't be afraid to show your personality. I sometimes see CVs that have a picture of the person on them. That's great. You don't have to do that, but little things like that. Or if you don't want to do that, maybe how can you add your personality a little bit more and just make it authentic to you as well. And that's really what we want to get across, because we care about you as well. You know, it's great that you have the skills for the job, but like I said, it is very much on the job training as well. So we want people that obviously are passionate and really just can contribute to Next overall.
Do you see a big difference between those that add the personality and those that don't then on the CVs?
I would say so, yeah.
Is it quite apparent, like?
Yeah, it can be.
It can be.
And I'm not saying that, you know, a colourful CV with a picture would definitely be a tick.
It doesn't
mean that at all, because, you know, we are always looking for the skills and experience that we require from the candidate. So that's not what I want to portray there. But I just mean that I can kind of see if it's just something that you're like, I've done this and this and this and this and
They've
this.
kind of downloaded something off a template or something.
Yeah,
you know
something
when that
that's
is.
kind of, just don't be afraid to put your own spin on it.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you learn more about yourself, I think, when you're actually kind of concentrating on putting those elements together. It's just a great tip, I think, and people I've spoke to in the past, it seems to have helped them. So that is just something that I kind of stick by, because we always obviously want you to be yourself, and that's a great way of doing that, you know, if we're meeting you firsthand on paper. Yeah.
So you go through, so someone from uni, or it doesn't have to be uni.
No, not necessarily. No. So, you know, obviously we do work a lot with different universities. You know, we have great relationships with some local universities, but also with some that are a bit further afield. So we do obviously spend a lot of time working with them and their students. But then we've also seen people come in to the trainee scheme. You know, it might be that they've worked in one of our stores. Or I know that we've had some people that have actually come straight from A-levels and come into like merchandising in particular. People have come from all different avenues, to be honest. And I think that's kind of the beauty of it, actually, because I think, you know, previously it's not just at Next. I think any job we've kind of been trained to think you finish school, you go to uni, you get this degree and you get the job in
changing
that.
though.
I didn't go to uni.
No, it's changing a lot.
It's not for everybody.
No.
It costs a fortune.
Yeah.
I'm not encouraging anyone to not go to uni, but you know, it's just recognizing that it's not for everyone, and that shouldn't hinder your chances at doing something that you really love as well. So that's why I always say, you know, invest in the learning, because yeah, you might have not gone to uni, but you might have done a short course somewhere else or gone to night school or, you know, because you wanted to do it. So there's always ways around it. And like I say, you will carry some kind of relevant experience. And just kind of try and build that up. Like I say, work experience, network with people, ask questions. It all really comes back to your growth and sort of your career, essentially.
No, I totally agree, and it's good we've got that approach as well, isn't it?
I think so. I think it's really important.
It's an open mindset.
So
they apply those tips you said about the CV. Obviously, when if they get through and go through to the interview stage, you know, asking those questions, what other things would you give tips on?
So I'd probably say otherwise, just sort of, you can discover your niche, and that doesn't happen overnight. It really doesn't. It can take people years to do that, but you know, try and dabble in everything. I know I've kind of touched on this before, but I think it's just really keeping an open mind, and it kind of relates to every tip that I'm giving, because I just think if you're kind of closed off, and that's, you know, that's kind of it for you, in that I'm only going to do this for the rest of my life and that's it. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that, but the world is changing every day. There'll be careers out there you don't even know about. I know merchandising is a big one, which is why we try and sort of educate students to let them know that it is out there, because actually, you know, we found, for example, business students, a lot of our merchandisers in the business now actually came from a business background.
Interesting.
And that was never really an audience that we'd target before, because naturally you'd probably think it's someone that's studying fashion and you know, sort of the more obvious kind of degrees or experience, when actually people probably don't even know about merchandising, have the perfect skills for it, and actually it's a really great career to get into. So I think it's just being open to finding out about anything, and
especially when you're in that part of your career right at the start, isn't it?
Exactly. Like, you know, the world is literally your oyster at that point.
Just start looking at it, and just look at all the different things we've got as well. You know, like you were explaining, like they are. I guess like working in product, which, you know, if you don't know what product is, would be classed as fashion.
Yeah.
You can kind of instantly go to a certain stereotype or a certain kind of role.
Exactly.
But I guess what you're saying is there's a lot more to it than just
there is. That. I mean, I didn't know that until I actually came and worked here. And so that's from doing no research beforehand. That was me just literally needing a job and kind of landing myself in one. But, you know, so I think, God, and I've been given the opportunity to kind of learn and grow in my career. And I think, God, if you're even starting to kind of be open to doing that before you sort of start your career, you're only setting yourself up for success, I think.
Big time.
Yeah.
That is a great tip to start doing that. So would you say as well, like, people putting in people putting in research as well about next and the roles is quite a key thing to do.
So I always encourage that before an interview. You know, we want you to want to work for us, and you know, it's very much, this kind of comes back to the asking questions in your interview as well. You know, obviously the interview is a chance for us to see if you're right for whatever role it is that you're coming into, but it's also the opportunity for you to find out that the role is right for you and aligns with what you want out of a career and what you want out of an employer. And, you know, so as much as it very much is an interview, you've got to make sure it's also, you're getting the answers that you want as well. And it comes back to that research. You know, the research continues throughout the recruitment process, I think, really, you know. We always have a part of the recruitment process, which is an assessment centre, and that is on campus at head office.
What's that then?
So that's essentially, it's usually half a day. So we'd have a group of a maximum of 6 candidates. They'd come to head office. We'd give them a bit of a tour, show them around. They'd kind of have a walk through our product areas in particular, because obviously that's the area that they're being recruited for. So they can really see how the departments work. There's normally a lovely manager on hand, whoever's available, just to sort of do a bit of a talk, sort of show them, you know, take them into one of our selection rooms maybe, and just talk them through what the meeting is that they might have later that afternoon. And, you know, it's really insightful. It's when I've sort of stood in there and listened, I've been like, wow, this is so like, and I know that already, but it's still like, you know, it's really, really insightful to see. And then in terms of the actual assessment centre itself, so it normally consists of a group activity. So we'll have up to 6 assessors, depending on how many candidates we've got. So it'll be 1 per candidate. So they'll be sort of observing the group activity, seeing how the candidates work together as a group. Obviously with product teams, there's very much crossover with different roles. So it's really important that, you know, you are very much comfortable working as part of a team, and again being confident in contributing what you can add, what value you can add. And from there it's then a one-to-one interview with a different assessor. Right. So we kind of do it on like a rotational basis. But you know, again, that's a sort of a great way to see the campus. You really get to know who we are as a company, as an employer. If you didn't know that already, you know, that really does kind of is the cherry on the cake, if you like. But I think it's really, you know, we've had quite a few years where we weren't able to do that due to COVID and that kind of thing, and it really is so important. I think even just being in a room together and working together, and also, you know, all of these candidates that are on that same assessment centre are in the same boat. So, and it's really important to say that at the assessment centre, it's not just that one person will get the job out of that 6. If we like all 6, we'll take all 6.
If you're
very
all great,
much, there's no limit on, you know, who is successful on the day. It's purely on their own merit. And, you know, it's really, we're always open to recruiting the future talent. So, it's a great process, I think. And as much as it's good for us, because it really helps us ensure we've got the most relevant people for the roles who, you know, we know can really make that impact. I think it's really a good experience for the candidates, that they can really fully understand who Next are and why it was really establish why it is that they actually applied with us in the first place. And, you know, it's
see it to believe it.
Exactly.
That's what
so
it is.
I do think that comes across in how sort of thorough the recruitment process is. But it's beneficial for both us and the candidate.
Well, I think that's a hell of a lot of information there. And I hope everyone's got loads of tips as well, because there is so much. But I really appreciate you coming on and sharing them. Because I think it's, you know, like you say, like, how did you sum it up? They are the future of Next.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, so thanks for coming on, Libby.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.